You are not in control of your life. Most of your decisions, reactions, and even your fears are manipulated by the unconscious, a part of the mind that you can't see. One of psychology's finest figures, Carl Jung, disclosed an unquestionable fact. You call it fate when what you neglect within yourself ultimately takes control of you. When you keep making the same mistakes, you run into the same problems and ask yourself, why does this happen to me every time? The solution is straightforward. Your unconscious is in command. Fortunately, this is changeable. Carl Jung created useful instruments in analytical psychology that enable us to reveal anything that is concealed. He demonstrated that the only way to get off autopilot is to confront your suppressed feelings, traumas, and even lost abilities. You will learn how ideas like the collective unconscious, the shadow, and the individuation process function in your life from this movie. I'll show you what's happening to you, and most importantly, how to modify it, frequently without you even noticing it. We'll go over useful strategies like active imagination to help you access your unconscious and regain control. The concept of coincidence does not exist. Everything that occurs repeatedly in your life has a cause, and now is the moment to make a change. You'll have the knowledge necessary to recognize what governs you and use it to your advantage by the end of this video. Have you ever given any thought to why certain issues never seem to be resolved? Without even recognizing it, you can be making the same errors and following the same patterns. You feel as though you are caught in an invisible cycle that never ends. In his statement, until you become conscious, the unconscious will direct your life, and you will call it destiny. Carl Jung, the founder of analytical psychology, got right to the point. Just breathtaking, isn't it? If it seems familiar, it's because your unconscious is influencing your emotions and decisions in the background. Even worse, you are unaware that it is in command. It controls the strings of your life like an unseen puppeteer. Who is in charge, I wonder? Is there a force dictating your conduct without your input, or are you truly in control? If that sounds a little frightening, it is. Consider a straightforward scenario. When you first start dating someone, everything appears ideal. However, you quickly discover that the same fights are occurring without knowing why. Or maybe you switch jobs at work in the hopes that things would be different this time. However, the same disputes come up. With the same storyline, it's as though you're seeing the same film. Carl Jung clarified this. Your reality might be shaped by the unconscious without you even being aware of it. It contains memories that you have suppressed, as well as traumas and anxieties. Even worse, it functions similarly to an unseen coder. Do you want to see an example? Because their unconscious is set up to resist success. A child who was raised with the belief that money belongs to selfish people is likely to experience financial difficulties as an adult. Now visualize an iceberg. Carl Jung explained the functioning of the human mind using this metaphor. The conscious is represented by the iceberg's tip, or what is visible above the ocean, your ideas, recollections, and rational judgments. However, what is concealed and submerged is far more significant. The personal unconscious is this unseen component. Additionally, it has years' worth of unimaginable memories, experiences, and beliefs. However, there's more. The unconscious encompasses more than just you, a concept known as the collective unconscious, a sort of common database that includes archetypes, as Jung referred to them, which are universal patterns and symbols. This implies that you bear burdens from previous generations in addition to your own. Carl Jung recognized that even the most accomplished and bright people can be undermined by their unconscious. For instance, what causes you to lose your temper under absurd circumstances? You know you have essential things to do, so why do you put them off? The unconscious is the source of these instinctive responses which operate like an uninvited autopilot. And you know what? That autopilot is always on. It's always prepared to take over when you're not looking. Jung claimed that the only way to restore control was to bring these patterns to consciousness. In addition to recognizing the issue, Jung also indicated the path to resolution, which he named the individuation process. This procedure entails revealing what is concealed, your suppressed feelings, anxieties, and memories you'd prefer to forget. However, you must have fortitude to accomplish this, because it can be painful to face your unconscious. However, as they say, the issue won't go away if you ignore it. What is the first step then? Easy. Pay attention to the patterns that recur in your life to begin. It's obvious what Jung teaches us. Your unconscious will continue to guide your life if you don't learn to recognize it. And what's worse, you'll blame it on fate, bad luck, or any other justification. Here, there is neither good nor bad luck. There are trends, and you are affected by these trends. They have an impact on how you perceive the world, make choices, and even respond to criticism. Now, consider, what if you were able to comprehend and control these forces? What if you could truly take charge of your life rather than being ruled by an unseen system? Calm down, it might sound complex. Let's first examine what this unconscious is and how it functions. Would you believe someone if they told you that 90% of the decisions you make aren't truly your own? Yes, that sounds ridiculous. However, Carl Jung introduced a potent idea that clarifies precisely that the unconscious actually has a significant impact on what you refer to as free will. According to Jung, the human mind is like an iceberg. Only a tiny portion of it is visible and above water. This is the conscious, or what you see. However, the personal unconscious is represented by the greater portion of the iceberg that is still submerged. Furthermore, there are buried memories, suppressed feelings, traumatic events, and beliefs that you aren't even aware of. Now, consider it. You're attempting to operate the vehicle of your dreams, but the steering wheel is stuck in your mental basement. It's complicated, don't you? Carl Jung recognized the existence of what he termed the collective unconscious in addition to the personal unconscious. Although this might seem odd at first, consider it this way. Assume that each person carries a shared external hard drive that contains knowledge, symbols, and behaviors that have been passed down from all of humanity. We refer to these common patterns as archetypes. They can be found in pop culture, mythologies, fairy tales, and dreams. Want a straightforward illustration? Archetypes from the collective unconscious include the hero who triumphs over adversity, the villain's shadow, and the protagonist's sage mentor. This explains why the framework of many stories, even those from different cultures, are so similar. They speak to a profound aspect of the human psyche. Are you looking for a real-world illustration of how your unconscious affects your decisions? Let's discuss relationships. Have you ever observed that you frequently find yourself with others of the same type? Perhaps it's someone distant, needy, or domineering. Even when you make a vow that things would be different the following time, you frequently find yourself reverting to the same pattern. Are you aware of why? Because a program is being repeated by the unconscious, this trend could have its origins in childhood experiences or perhaps traumas in your family. And in an attempt to fix what remains unsolved, you keep drawing in the same kind of circumstance. The secret is to become conscious of it. It's like an invisible cycle that needs to be broken. If you are finding this content intriguing, don't forget to like this video. It helps me a lot to create more content for you. Dreams are another potent way that the unconscious acts. Because the mind relaxes during sleep and permits this knowledge to emerge, Jung thought that dreams were a direct conduit to the unconscious. Keep an eye out for symbols that appear repeatedly in your dreams. For instance, if water appears frequently in your dreams, this may be a sign of your most intense feelings. A house in your dream may symbolize several facets of the human nature. This isn't gibberish. It's the application of analytical psychology. Jung created the idea of active imagination, which aids in deciphering these symbols and bringing forth insight into what is concealed. The unconscious seems to be attempting to communicate with you through visuals. For those who believe this is only found in mythology or movies, it's important to keep in mind that your unconscious influences the things you do on a daily basis. Do you have the impression that I have no idea why I did it? The unconscious is at work there. Consider those who suffer from illogical phobias, such as dread of the open ocean or heights. These responses are frequently the result of past events that have been suppressed. Without your knowledge, it emits a warning signal. By focusing on emotional triggers, situations that cause you to lose your temper or become paralyzed, you can start to recognize these reactions in practice. This is your unconscious at work. Additionally, it will exert more control over you the more you ignore it. According to Carl Jung, the unconscious is the most intricate component of the mind, which is not a straightforward system. Until the unconscious is revealed, the conscious cannot alter anything on its own. Many people become dissatisfied when they attempt to address difficulties solely by thinking positively because of this. Understanding the roots is just as important as wanting to change. What's interesting, your unconscious is not your adversary. It contains messages, hints, and even solutions that can release you. Are you curious about how? You must first learn to confront the unseen. But first, let's examine something crucial. The aspect of yourself that you would prefer not to be seen. If there's one aspect of the mind that both dominates your life and terrifies you the most, it's the shadow. The shadow, according to Carl Jung, is everything you conceal or reject about oneself. Impulses, wrath, flaws, fears, and even suppressed wants. Put another way, it's the aspect of yourself that you don't want to acknowledge. The issue? It takes over more and more the more you ignore it. It's similar to pushing dirt under the rug and acting as though nothing is wrong and that it will eventually appear, likely at the most unexpected moment. The shadow is what causes you to act in ways you don't understand yourself, destroy possibilities, or lose your anger suddenly. It is there, silent but strong, awaiting an opportunity to show itself. Do you want to witness the shadow's activity? Consider a person who is constantly accusing others. So-and-so is conceited and self-centered. In actuality, this individual frequently projects their own shadow. According to Jung, we often perceive in other people what we don't want to see in ourselves. That's why we get harsh criticism. Someone may be hitting on exactly what we keep hidden about ourselves when they say something that annoys us. For instance, someone who decries others' arrogance could secretly struggle to acknowledge that they also desire recognition. It takes a lot of bravery to see the shadow hidden in these nuances. Observing your automatic habits is a useful method of spotting the shadow. Do you get the want to yell at someone while driving? Or that rumor that you can't help sharing? These indicate that the shadow has control. It's similar to an inner figure that you've imprisoned in a pitch-black room, but that periodically breaks out. According to Carl Jung, your shadow is everything you don't want to be yet, that nonetheless exists within of you. This implies that ignoring it does not make it go away. Conversely, the more you suppress it, the more powerful it becomes. Recognizing the shadow is the first step in dealing with it. And don't worry, even those who appear flawless have shadows. Great historical individuals or fictional characters provide an intriguing example. Consider Star Wars' Darth Vader. He stands for the darker aspect that shows up when someone suppresses feelings like fear and rage. How many seemingly balanced people in real life end up making careless choices because they are unable to confront their own shadow? Ironically, the shadow isn't solely composed of negative things. It also contains abilities, aspirations, and aspects of your potential that have been suppressed due to guilt or fear. Perhaps you've suppressed your artistic side because you've been advised that art doesn't generate revenue. Or perhaps you have a brave side that you have concealed to avoid judgment. Saving the shadow entails saving significant aspects of your identity. One of Carl Jung's most important ideas was the integration of the shadow. For instance, rather than suppressing your anger the next time, pause and consider why it bothered you so much. Where in my body am I being touched? Despite its simplicity, this self-perception practice can provide unexpected results. Writing is another useful technique. Take out a notebook and record the instances where you felt uncontrollable. Examine the reasons behind your response. By bringing the shadow into awareness, this technique helps it become less powerful over you. Ultimately, the shadow is a part of you, and integrating it is a freeing process. It is not a monster that must be vanquished. According to Jung, avoiding the shadow invites it to show up in harmful ways, while facing it head-on offers a chance for development. Imagine the shadow as a locked chest in your mental attic. You can either have the guts to see inside, or you can live your entire life terrified to open it. When you do, you discover that a lot of things that appeared frightening were actually misunderstood. What do you like more then? Do you want to start looking inside or keep being dominated by what's hidden? This question's response leads us to the following point. How can the individuation process incorporate all of this? The question comes up now that you are aware of the unconscious's strength and the shadow's effect. What are the chances of regaining control? Carl Jung gave a compelling response. Individualization is like turning on a flashlight in a pitch-black basement and beginning to sort out neglected boxes. The goal of individuation is to bring your disparate pieces together to become a whole person. According to Jung, neglecting this process is like living half your life while the other half is haunted. The collective unconscious and archetypes rule the other half. The individuation process takes time to complete. Recognizing recurring patterns is the first stage in the process. Examine the circumstances in your life that appear to recur, whether they are at work, in relationships, or even in your thoughts. For instance, you feel attacked and respond angrily anytime you get criticism, or maybe you look for reasons not to try every time a chance presents itself. These patterns are unconscious communications. Take out a notebook and record your observations. The act of writing itself offers a fresh viewpoint. According to Carl Jung, transformation starts with this kind of conscious investigation. Now, I'd like to know from you, what recurring patterns have you noticed in your life that could be linked to your unconscious mind? Let me know in the comments below. You've already started the process of breaking the pattern when you recognize it. The study of dreams is another crucial step in the individuation process. According to Jung, dreams serve as a direct conduit between the aware and unconscious minds. The mind uses them to transmit symbolic messages that, when correctly deciphered, provide important hints about what is concealed. For instance, having a dream about a house may represent your human psyche. The rooms stand for many facets of the intellect. Conversely, a recurrent dream about water can indicate feelings you are suppressing. This is a straightforward, practical advice. Maintain a dream journal. Write down anything that comes to mind when you wake up, even the most bizarre facts. Patterns and symbols will become apparent to you over time. An effective method for reaching your unconscious mind is this practice. And further essential step in individuation is facing the shadow. As we've already covered, the shadow contains things you don't want to acknowledge, but it also contains courage that has lain dormant, hidden treasures, suppressed abilities, and forgotten desires. It is not necessary to worsen oneself or give in to unpleasant urges in order to accept the darkness. Instead, it entails finding equilibrium and taking an honest look at it. For instance, if you become irritated easily, consider the reasons behind it. Perhaps you've never voiced a genuine wish to be respected. Integrating the shadow, according to Carl Jung, is freeing since you are no longer a slave to it. Now is the time to take back control of your responses. Active imagination is another important idea in analytical psychology. Jung developed this technique, which involves using mental imagery to dialogue with the unconscious. Although it sounds complicated, it's actually rather easy. Shut your eyes, inhale deeply, and visualize a scene that embodies your current concerns. It could be a gloomy setting, a menacing person, or even a particular circumstance. Engage with this image rather than fleeing. Find out what it implies. You can learn how to deal with what you repress and bring essential messages to consciousness with this activity. The unconscious mind can be accessed directly through active imagination, and frequently the answers are found in unexpected places. Last but not least, Carl Jung maintained that by integrating the unconscious and confronting the shadow, you cease living automatically and begin acting consciously. The individuation process is an invitation to be honest with yourself. Undoubtedly, it's a difficult process, but it's also transforming. Life becomes an intentional decision rather than a series of reflexive behaviors. You begin creating your own world rather than blaming fate. The key? Begin modestly. Identify trends, examine your dreams, and have the guts to reveal what's concealed. And when you begin to combine all of this, a question inevitably comes up. In any case, who is in charge of your life? Let's discuss it. It's time to answer the question you may have been avoiding now that you've made it this far. Who is actually in charge of your life? What you don't bring to consciousness manifests itself in your life as destiny, Carl Jung stated frankly. Put another way, you wind up being controlled by what you don't know. How often have you asked yourself, why does this happen to me every time? Or I feel like my life is a never-ending circle. That isn't fate. It's your unconscious writing the script without your knowledge, not bad luck. However, you now understand that there is a path out, and it begins with your decision to examine yourself. It is up to you to decide to end this cycle. It may feel awkward to identify patterns, confront the shadow, and use techniques like dreams and active imagination to access the unconscious, but doing so is the first step toward taking back control. Take a moment to reflect. How many times did fear get the better of you and cause you to miss out on an opportunity? When faced with a trivial scenario, how many times have you overreacted? These instinctive reactions are the result of past programming that is stored in your unconscious mind, not of you. Now is the moment to make a change. As stated by Jung, you must light up the areas of your mind that are still dark. Then, and only then, will you be free to act without being constrained by invisible patterns and phobias. Who wants to live their life as a spectator after all? Consider it. Anything you can't see influences every decision you make, even your most significant ones, and what you eat for breakfast. But consider the effect if this were made public. What if you started recognizing and challenging these patterns today? Your human brain can be transformed by this easy questioning habit, creating room for genuine transformation. You don't have to go through life automatically anymore. Carl Jung offered a straightforward and workable remedy in addition to illustrating the issue. You have access to methods such as the individuation process, shadow integration, archetypal study, and collective unconscious analysis. However, the reality is that no one will carry out this task for you. This change won't occur naturally. You must decide to examine yourself, confront your discomfort, and come to terms with the aspects of yourself that you have forgotten. So, it's up to you. Either stand up and take charge, or keep following the unconscious's lead, assuming everything is fate and accepting whatever happens. This isn't a hollow promise or magic. It's actual useful psychology. How many people discover that they were never really themselves when their lives come to an end? That they acted out an unseen script for years? Don't allow yourself to experience that. True liberation, according to Carl Jung, comes from understanding oneself and shedding light on what is hidden. Would you agree to that? To examine your unconscious, confront your fears, and ultimately set yourself free? If the response is in the affirmative, the initial action has already been completed. You know, it's time to take action. Examine your dreams, consider your responses, and look at recurring themes in your life. Keep in mind that everything you choose to ignore will control you. Tell me now what you plan to do to break free from your unconscious. Your unconscious is in charge of you, and ignoring it will only make it stronger. Carl Jung demonstrated how your choices, feelings, and ultimately your entire existence are influenced by everything you suppress, conceal, or deny about yourself. Even if you're not aware of it, the collective unconscious, archetypes, and the shadow are constantly at work. Regaining control and leading a mindful life can only be achieved by integrating these neglected aspects. You are responsible for using the available tools. Active imagination exercises, dream analysis, and pattern recognition are all effective strategies. You can break away from the belief that fate cannot be changed by recognizing your shadow, bringing it to light, and accepting what is inside of you. You can bring about change, but you must take action. Take control of your life. What distinguishes people who are unconscious slaves from those who control their own narratives is awareness. Subscribe to the channel, enable notifications, and make sure you don't miss the upcoming videos if you want to continue learning and developing. The information you need to change your reality and comprehend the human mind can be found here.